Hey everybody. In this video I'm going to go over contextualization in the AP US History DBQs and LEQs. When you're watching the video, it might be handy to have the handout Introduction to Contextualization with you. It's basically the same thing. I'm just going to walk through the worksheet verbally so you get a chance to hear my explanation on top of the sheet itself. So without further ado, let's get started on the contextualization. Contextualization, the definition of it is essentially ask the students, or yourself, because you are the student, to place the question or issue of the prompt into a larger theme of U.S. history. You can see how it looks on the rubric here. Essentially, it's you get 0 points if you can't connect what's going on in the essay, the question or the issue of the essay, to something else in U.S. history, another theme of a different time period, which is really important. It needs to be in a different time period. So to get 1 point, you have to situate the argument and explain the broader historical events, developments, or themes immediately relevant to the question. The key thing is it cannot be simply one sentence. You cannot simply say the events in this essay connect to this theme. You can't do that. It has to be multiple sentences, or even possibly it can be a paragraph if need be. It's up to you about how long you feel like it needs to be. But if you're only doing one sentence or a quick one, maybe 2 sentence explanation, it's not going to be long enough. Contextualization, it can go in your introduction, it can go in your conclusion, it can go anywhere you want in the essay. Typically in class, we do it in the introduction, but it's possible to do it elsewhere in the essay as well. But it's up to the teacher to kind of decide where it goes. Most teachers are going to want it to be in your introduction. So let's talk real quick about the themes in U.S. history. Because the contextualization asks you to take the essay and situate it, or set it in the context of what's going on in U.S. history during this period of time, you need to know those themes that are in AP US history, because you have to tie it to one of those themes. The themes, there's, as you can see here, there's 7 of them. They are arranged in the acronym BAGPIPES, or BAGPIPE, but they're belief systems. This deals with ideologies, religious beliefs, and culture. America and the world. This is essentially foreign policy. How does the U.S. interact with other countries around the world? Geography and environment. How do humans change their environment? Or how are humans in turn changed by their environment as well? Politics and power. Political beliefs, political parties, conflicts over politics, legislation, things like that. Identity is a toughie. Sometimes people get kind of confused on this, but this is anything to do with gender, race, how people see themselves when it comes to class, race, gender, ethnic identities. National identity can even fit into this. How do people see what it is to be American? Peopling and migration. This is essentially how do people move and migrate throughout the United States history. How are the people migrating affecting them and things like that? And how are they affecting each other by their movement? And lastly, economy. This deals with your typical things of exchange, money, technology used, and how technology changes the economy, etc. I'm not going to go over these much more, but just realize that these are the themes we'll be working with, and these are the themes you'll be referencing and discussing in your contextualization. So there's a number of ways to write contextualization. These are just some ideas. There might be more, but these are the ones that I would advise that people use and to start with. And these are using the words such as the theme of is seen in, or was a time of, or because across the nation, world, and history, the larger story of. Lastly, the last four here just kind of get lumped together. Serves as a great example, fits into, represents, exemplifies. Essentially, you're taking the question, you're taking the event, and you're explaining how it is an example of, or it can be seen in, or how it fits into a larger theme that's occurring in U.S. history at the time of the essay, or the time of the topic of the essay. So to give you an example, the theme of is seen in. This is how it would look. An example would be the theme of peopling is seen most dramatically in the conflicts between American Indians and settlers in the West during this time. This is the really important part, is you need to explain it. You can't simply just have one sentence. You can't say this stuff is related to peopling. You've got to go on. So the second part, if you don't have the second part, you're not getting the point. So the second part is the important part. It says, with each movement of settlers into the West, there were larger debates and questions of ownership and land rights. It connects what is going on here. People, American Indians, and settlers, great, it has something to do with peopling, but why does it have something to do with peopling? And you go on and explain how people moving creates questions of ownership and land rights. You would then add a little bit more. You would maybe go on and say, with each of these movements by settlers in American Indian lands, it inevitably resulted in conflicts over this, armed resistance by American Indians, and bloodshed. This kind of gives context to it. You can do this in the introduction. If the essay is about American Indians and settlers, you're going to want to set the context, like what's going on there? Well, what's going on is settlers are moving in and we're having conflict happen over the issue of migration or peopling. Another example is the theme of ethnic identities became pronounced during this period as many minorities asserted their civil rights and identity as minority groups. The key thing here is this again, this is one sentence, but it's not really enough. It's just a start to a really good contextualization. You identify the theme, which is ethnic identities, and then you say why it is. So the theme of ethnic identities became pronounced during this time period as many during this time period. That's not enough. You have to go as many minorities asserted their civil rights and identity as minority groups. And then you might go on and say groups from African Americans to gay individuals to women challenged the American idea or the American belief that to be American was to be male and white, essentially. Like you go on to give that context. And you can see how this might be a good introduction to kind of set the stage. Contextualization is really about setting the stage, like what is going on in the context of this happening, what's going on around what we're talking about. Another example when you use was a time of. This period in American history was a time of tremendous global conflict over the role of America in the world. So we're doing the theme of America's role in the world, global foreign policy. Questions that were being asked were how much the United States should be involve itself into foreign concerns. Another example, this period in American history was a time of change in belief systems and religious practices. Again, the theme of belief systems. As the United States economy changed rapidly, many Americans felt lost and turned to new emerging reform movements and religions. Another example, because across nation world history, just to give you the examples, the environment became a very important question during the 1960s because across the nation, environmental disasters illustrated the larger story of how people's actions can have negative effects upon their environment. And again, you go on and add a couple more sentences or so to really set that context, that introduction. During the 1830s, across the nation, economic concerns rose dramatically as the larger story of people questioning what role the government should play in helping its citizens economically grew. Lastly, serves as a great example, fits into, you can see the examples here, the struggle of African Americans during the Civil Rights Movement served as a great example of the larger theme of identity in America. So the theme is there, as minority groups often struggled to gain acceptance in the idea of what it meant to be an American. By the time of Jackson's presidency, continued conflict over states' rights and federal power grew. This fits into the larger theme of politics and power. Throughout American history, the continued question of where the power rests politically between states and the federal government always caused conflict. Lastly, is representative, exemplifies the larger continual emerging trend of. During the market revolution, the United States saw an explosion of economic growth, which contributed to debates over the role of women in the workplace, which is representative of the larger theme of economy and identity. You can see how more complex they can get, because people's ideas of what the proper role of women conflicted with the changing economic realities of America. Last example here is the conflict between the Federalist and Democratic Republicans exemplifies a larger issue, our theme, of power and politics, as the continual struggle between political parties in American history has been an ongoing reality over many historical periods. The last points to make with contextualization is, it is not a one-sentence thing. It is, what does this issue, our topic, our argument that you're going to be making, where is it situated in the larger themes of American history? Throughout American history, there's lots of themes that we talked about, that you'll talk about in class. Where does this issue fit into that? And it's got to be more than just one sentence. So take your time when you're writing your context. It's worth up to 1 point, and it's something that can be easily lost if you don't explain enough. And take your time to really think about, how is this essay situated with larger themes in U.S. history?